did a hell of a job, man. Everybody made their weights and passed the conditioning test. We looked good.
Detroit, we need to talk. Because day one of Detroit Lions training camp was supposed to be simple. Cleats on the grass. No pads. A few conditioning drills. A welcome back kind of day. Instead, it turned into one of the most emotionally loaded openings to a training camp this franchise has had in years. A story of survival. A story of loyalty that's raising eyebrows across the league, and a rookie trying to find his footing on an offensive line that's under more pressure than maybe any unit in Detroit. So buckle up, because we're about to break down everything that went down on day one. And trust me, there's a lot to unpack. Let's start with the story that hit hardest emotionally, and that's linebacker Jack Campbell. If you don't know the backstory, here it is. Heading into this offseason, Campbell underwent hip surgery, but this wasn't a routine cleanup. There was nerve involvement, the kind of injury that doesn't come with guarantees. Nerve damage is unpredictable. Sometimes it heals in weeks. Sometimes it takes months. And sometimes, brutally, it just doesn't come back the way it was. Dan Campbell himself admitted publicly that the surgery was designed specifically to take pressure off that nerve, and that the team simply had to wait and see what came back. Now, imagine being the guy living inside that uncertainty. Jack Campbell described starting his rehab just 5 weeks after the surgery, working with the training staff so intensely that they had to physically tell him to take breaks and get away from the building. That's dedication bordering on obsession. But it's also a coping mechanism, because when your body is in limbo, throwing yourself into work is sometimes the only way to survive the waiting. And the waiting, according to Campbell, was brutal. He talked about the fear that comes with a nerve injury specifically. Not knowing if you'll ever get your strength back. Not knowing if the game you've built your entire identity around might be taken from you without warning. He admitted it wore on him every single night, and that his wife bore the brunt of it, listening to him process the same anxious thoughts over and over. Every night, he says, he'd tell her how much he hoped his nerve strength would return, how much he hoped he'd get to play football again. And every night, she'd reassure him that the doctors and the training staff believe in his recovery. That kind of vulnerability from an NFL linebacker isn't common. These are guys who are trained to project toughness, to never show a crack. But Campbell laid it out plainly, and it makes his recovery story land even harder. Because here's the thing, the nerve strength didn't come back all at once. It came back in stages. First the glut, then the hamstring, then the calf. Watching your own body slowly reassemble itself, watching muscle atrophy fight to reverse itself in real time, is its own kind of psychological roller coaster. And according to Campbell, it was only in the last 2 or 3 months that his full strength returned to the point where the visible atrophy started disappearing and the muscle started rebuilding. That means for the majority of this offseason, one of Detroit's defensive cornerstones was quite literally rebuilding his body from the ground up, unsure if it would fully cooperate. Now here's where the story gets even bigger. This isn't just a recovery arc. Campbell is stepping into a significantly expanded role this season. He's shifting from what's known in linebacker terminology as the Sam position to the Will position, a jump that could see him playing close to 100% of Detroit's defensive snaps, including heavy nickel packages. That's an enormous workload increase for a player who, just months ago, wasn't sure if his legs would fully cooperate again. Campbell said he's approaching it like he approached his rookie year, like he has to earn it fresh every single day, studying tape of teammates who played the role before him, leaning on the coaching staff and the veterans in the room to fast-track his understanding. And speaking of mentorship, Campbell opened up about who shaped him early in his career, someone he called his best friend within the organization, a veteran linebacker who took him under his wing when he first arrived and made an overwhelming transition feel manageable. Now Campbell says he's paying that forward, checking in on the younger linebackers every morning, offering guidance the same way it was once offered to him. It's the kind of quiet leadership transition that often gets overlooked in the noise of training camp, but it's exactly the kind of thing that determines whether a locker room actually gels or just coexists. But if Jack Campbell's story is about resilience and recovery, the next storyline out of Allen Park is about something far messier, and it's the one that's got Lions fans absolutely divided. We're talking, of course, about Terrion Arnold. For those who need the recap, Arnold, Detroit's first-round cornerback from the 2024 draft, was arrested and released by the Lions after being charged with multiple felony counts connected to an alleged kidnapping and armed robbery case out of Florida. According to prosecutors, the incident stemmed from Arnold wrongly believing associates of his had stolen a significant amount of cash and luxury items from him, allegedly leading to a violent confrontation where the accused victims were reportedly held and beaten. Arnold's legal team has firmly denied any involvement, insisting there is no evidence tying him directly to the alleged conduct, and the case remains in its early legal stages with an arraignment set for mid-August. A judge set his bond at $1 million with strict conditions, including surrendering his passport and being largely confined to his residence outside of legal or team obligations. Obligations that evaporated the moment Detroit made the difficult decision to cut ties. Now here's where it gets fascinating from a locker room dynamic standpoint. Head coach Dan Campbell addressed the release directly with the team, calling it a gut-wrenching decision, the kind you never want to make about a player the organization drafted and developed. But then came the moment that really got people talking. Veteran cornerback DJ Reed, entering his 9th NFL season, spoke publicly about his former teammate, and instead of distancing himself the way you might expect from a franchise trying to move forward, Reed doubled down on his support. He called Arnold one of the best human beings and teammates he's ever been around in this league, praised his energy as consistently positive, and revealed that he's personally stayed in contact with him since the release, saying Arnold is doing all right given the circumstances. Let that sink in for a second. A player facing multiple felony charges, no longer employed by the team, and one of Detroit's most respected veterans is still publicly vouching for his character. Is that loyalty? Is that naivety? Is that just what real brotherhood looks like when the outside world has already made up its mind? However you land on it, it's undeniably a storyline that's going to follow this Lions team throughout camp, especially with Arnold reportedly already fielding interest from other franchises even while his legal situation remains unresolved. On the football side of things, Arnold's release has created a legitimate opportunity at the cornerback position opposite Reed, with names like Rock Ya-Sin, Ennis Rakestraw, and a breakout candidate in Nick Whiteside all jockeying for reps. Reed himself praised Whiteside's consistency and competitiveness, noting how much chemistry matters in that secondary room. Chemistry that now has to be rebuilt without the player who was supposed to be a foundational piece of it for years to come. Now let's shift to the trenches, because Detroit's offensive line might be the single most scrutinized unit on this roster heading into the season. After a disappointing year plagued by injuries and inconsistency, the Lions overhauled the group. Longtime left tackle Taylor Decker is gone. All-Pro Penei Sewell has shifted over to left tackle, a position he actually played in college, opening the door for a rookie first-round pick to step into the right tackle spot. That rookie has been candid about the adjustment, admitting that while things are coming quicker than they did during the spring, there's still plenty to learn, and that the ultimate goal is to make his assignments feel automatic rather than something he has to consciously think through play-by-play. What stood out most from his comments wasn't the football jargon. It was the culture. He described a room where every single lineman is close enough that there's not a single guy he wouldn't spend time with outside the building. That kind of camaraderie matters enormously up front, where communication has to happen in a split second, where 5 guys have to essentially operate as one collective mind. He credited offensive line coach Hank Fraley for instilling that shared mental framework, ensuring everyone processes protections and blocking assignments the same way. He also shared a piece of advice from veteran lineman Ben Barch that's honestly one of the most vivid metaphors to come out of camp so far, comparing the never-ending list of small technical corrections to a game of whack-a-mole, where you fix one issue and another pops right up, over and over, until one day you look back and realize you become a completely different player. It's a grinded-out mentality that captures exactly what Detroit is trying to build up front after last season's struggles in both pass protection and the run game. Zoom out, and what you're really looking at is a Lions team wrestling with 2 very different emotional undercurrents heading into this season. On one hand, there's genuine hunger. Multiple players echoed the same sentiment. That missing the playoffs last year after winning the division and securing the top seed the season prior lit a fire that hasn't gone out. Campbell talked about situational football being the difference maker, about third downs, red zone execution, and short yardage situations being the exact areas Detroit has to clean up to get back to being an elite team. There's a collective understanding that complacency, whether real or perceived from the outside, cannot be part of this team's identity going forward. On the other hand, there's this undeniable cloud hanging over the building because of the Arnold situation. A reminder that even a franchise as tightly built around culture and brotherhood as Detroit's isn't immune to off-field chaos disrupting the locker room. How the Lions manage both of these threads simultaneously, the hunger to reclaim their standing as one of the NFC's elite teams, and the emotional weight of losing a talented young player to a legal situation with years' worth of consequences attached, could genuinely shape the tone of this entire season. One thing is clear after day one. This is not a boring Lions training camp. You've got a linebacker who fought his way back from a nerve injury that had him questioning his entire career, stepping into arguably the biggest workload increase of his life. You've got a franchise cornerback's exit sparking a surprisingly public display of loyalty for one of the locker room's most respected veterans. And you've got a rookie tackle trying to hold his own on a line that has to be dramatically better than it was a year ago if this team wants to get back to Super Bowl contention. Add in Dan Campbell's fiery, goosebump-inducing speech to open camp, and you've got all the ingredients for a season that Lions fans will be talking about for years, one way or another. So here's what we want to know from you. Do you think DJ Reed's public support for Terrion Arnold is admirable loyalty, or is it a distraction the Lions don't need heading into camp? Drop your take in the comments, because we are reading every single one. And if you want more breakdowns like this all camp long, the injuries, the position battles, the drama, all of it, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We're on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers here on Detroit Scope, and every single subscribe, like, and comment gets us that much closer. So smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one. Detroit Scope out.